Good evening and welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours with me, Dr Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier, and today we've got a very special guest, Hayley Brown, joining us again. She's one of our regulars. We talk about exploitation, how to avoid it, how to recognise the signs of grooming, and all of those really important issues that you might face at any age. So today, Hayley is here to share her life story as well as talk about some of those red flags and how to overcome when you've had an awful experience. Let's head over to the studio. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. It's always great to have you.
Thank you again for having me.
Well, first of all, congratulations are in order.
Yes.
Link to Change has just won the not-for-profit Gold Award from the Bedfordshire Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So excited that we finally got some recognition for all the amazing work that the staff do, but also the impact that we have upon young people. It's just fantastic.
And we've been showing a lot of your podcast, and of course you've been on the show before. And why is that conversation about what exploitation is and why young people and the people who work with them understanding the concept of exploitation and how it presents, why is that still so important?
It's so important because it is just so misunderstood. Yeah. It is so misunderstood. I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, I don't really know what exploitation is, so I kind of went in. But it's that grooming process piece. Yes. That it's so easy for someone to be groomed and not understand and know that they are being groomed. I mean, it's an everyday process. Yes. And so when you get to the point of the exploitation, actually you're so far entrenched in it and you're so far along in that grooming process that it's really hard for you to recognise the situation and the circumstances that you're in.
And this is something which we wanted to talk about today because we've used your work to help understand exploitation even in places like the workplace where grooming happens and we just don't realise it. But it also happens in adult relationships, it happens just so insidiously. And you yourself have your own personal story, which is as inspiring as the work that you do. And that's probably shaped what you do today. Do you mind sharing that with us?
No. So, I have quite a long story, so it's trying to kind of shut it down, I suppose. Not shut it down, but, reduce it a little bit. So I think for me, I've always really struggled with relationships, what is healthy, what is not healthy. And I have had, in my past, some really, really unhealthy relationships. And I was in a relationship once with someone, and now looking back at it and reflecting upon it, actually it was an incredibly emotionally abusive relationship and very manipulative behaviour. They were also a very violent person. Now, they were never violent towards me. However, when you're sitting in the middle of a sofa and they're throwing things around you, they're shouting, screaming, they're punching doors, actually that is an incredibly difficult situation to be. So you can kind of sit there and say, oh, but I was never hurt physically, but actually mentally, emotionally, and the anxiety of being in that situation is incredibly difficult. And so for what I do now in my role, and actually some of that relationship was going on whilst I was in my role. So I'm talking to young people about exploitation, healthy relationships, but actually couldn't see the situation and the circumstances that I was in myself.
It's really interesting you say that because I think this is quite a common sentiment. It's people who work in the field who know and can theoretically explain all of this, and it's happening to them. Why is it hard to... Do we miss it? I think that's the question. Do we miss it or do we excuse it when we're in the situation? Do you think?
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. I think we're always very good at telling other people the situation and the circumstances that they are in, for seeing it for something else. But I also believe that you know, if you don't have a concept of what's healthy to begin with, and it is that big question, isn't it? What is healthy? If you don't have that understanding to begin with, then you're going to think that actually all of these behaviours, all of this situation, it's normal.
Yeah, and that's, I think, something the media has a lot of responsibility for, because there's all of this very dramatic kind of love stories and things. I mean, they're just remaking Wuthering Heights, and that's got a lot of contention around it, because that's actually a very abusive relationship that's romanticised.
Well, you see, exactly, and that is my favourite book. I love Wuthering Heights. It is my favourite. So actually, you know, growing up, I think that you have to have this huge, powerful, strong, dramatic relationship. This is what love is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be traumatic. It's supposed to be heartbreaking. It's supposed to be all of this dramatisation. And I think the media now as well are so, you know, there's so much controversy around misogyny. There's so much controversy around what is masculinity, around what is a female, who is a female, or how you're supposed to represent yourself. It's so confusing. It's really confusing.
And your point about not knowing healthy is also really important, which kind of brings me to my third question about the red flags. Because on the one hand, we've talked a lot about excusing red flags, but I think there's an element where it's a willful ignorance, because we don't even see it as a red flag. We see it as passion and drama. And I've heard so many stories of people who have got relatives, it's usually sisters, who have been in a really abusive relationship. They go into what to everybody else can see is a healthy relationship, and then they say, oh, I dumped him because he's boring. So it's not even the red flag. It's I'm looking for a red flag.
To make it exciting.
And I think with those red flags, for me, I recognised some of those things. I knew some of those things, but there was always, their mental health isn't great. My mental health isn't great. Actually, am I the person that is causing this? Is this my fault? Am I instigating? Do I need to be a better person? Do I need to change? What, you know, and you make those excuses, but also in the outside world, that relationship looks perfect, because you know, as soon as you go and talk to someone and say, you know, a family member or a friend, well, that's it, you know, they're doing this, they're doing that. And you end up closing yourself further and further in, because you're so scared that other people are going to judge the situation and circumstances.
Yes, gosh. There's so much.
Yeah, there's a lot that is coming out of this. So in your relationship then, how did you finally begin to make changes?
So I, you know, as I say, there's been a lot of unhealthy relationships from the age of sort of 15 onwards. And I think with the one that was the worst, it took me a long time to see it, but actually it didn't take until he ended the relationship for me to be able to see it and for me to be able to understand. And, you know, even when that relationship ended, I was still defending, and slowly I'd start to say little bits to my sisters, slowly I'd start to say little bits to my mum, to my friends, and they'd be like, Hayley, that's not good, that's not good at all. And what I realised actually was that I had a huge codependency upon this person. And actually, you know, the way that I was and you know, I was behaving, I had an addiction to this person, which then made me overlook all of those kind of red flags and things even more, because for me it was, well, I love them. You know, I am devastated, I am heartbroken. And it's only through that kind of journey of self-discovery almost, of being at that point of breaking point, you know, the ending of this relationship has destroyed me, that I started to go, okay, actually, Hayley, you need to work on yourself, you need to have a better understanding. this is not, you know, if anyone else told you about this, was telling you about this relationship, what would you say? What would you say to them? And that journey of starting to realise and build upon myself and overcome that.
Yeah.
So what helped you the most in that process?
I would say a combination of having that support network. That support network is fantastic, and sadly for some people there isn't that support network. But there are places that you can go to and support that you can access, and having that person independent. So I did a lot of things. I kind of went into therapy. I undertook equine therapy, fantastic, absolutely amazing, best experience that I have ever had, because it's so, you know, I'd had so many talking therapies over the years, and sometimes you feel a little bit talked out by it all, but actually for you, when you're in that experience with that horse, it's about the relationship between you and that horse, and you're in that moment, and it was a fantastic thing to be able to access and be able to do. But it was about recognizing the situation that I'd been in and developing and understanding. I accessed Codependency Anonymous, and actually that was also a fantastic realization of, you know, where I am and where other people are, and when you start to realize that you're in a room with other people that have had similar experiences, that you can say, actually, do you know what? I've done really well. You know, look at where I am, look at the journey that you've been on, and look at everything that you've kind of overcome.
I think what you're talking about as well, we've talked about on the show before, we have experts who have been through all of this, and they're very good at processing. They're very good. Part of your job shows that you must be very good at processing. And that's why something like equine therapy, hypnotherapy, havening, just to put yourself in a physically different state, that makes such a difference.
It makes a whole difference. So for me, you know, I've struggled with my mental health since I was sort of 13, 14. You know, I had eating disorder, I have bipolar, you know, all of those things. So for me, I've had various different types of access to support and support over the years, and there was an element of me in this situation of self-blame because of my own mental health and my own situation and circumstances. But being able to do some of the more kind of creative, actually they worked for me. They were really good, because you can be in a particular space. So for me, it was about creating a routine of, you know, I had the equine therapy, but the meditation, the yoga, because actually, you know, the trauma, you know, the body knows about trauma, and actually a key way to work through that trauma is to recognize what's going on in the body, and it genuinely works.
And just, I know we've got to go to break, but just as you were speaking, you were talking about that self-blame. I'm just wondering whether there's that element of you might even recognise you're in an unhealthy relationship, but then you're almost telling yourself, but good people stay loyal, and I want to... It's almost a reflection on you if you choose to dump that person.
The last thing that I wanted was someone to go, oh, she's had another failed relationship. You know, because I recognise now that actually, you know, the partners that I was with was not healthy, and so I can't have another failed relationship. I can't do another 3 years with someone, you know, that kind of, I can't do another 3 years, and then they'll be like, oh, you know, Hayley can't do this, Hayley can't do that. And so you do, I think you persevere and you stay with it without recognising actually what is right for me. What is the right thing for me?
Oh my goodness, we're going to keep you, Hayley, and we'll be back just after this. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. We're talking with Hayley Brown. She is the CEO of Link to Change, which is a charity that supports young people in the Bedfordshire area with dealing with things like exploitation, dealing with the very difficult issues that young people might go through. And you'd recently won an award, and that's really wonderful, great recognition of your work. But we've also been talking about your own personal story where you've been through those very things that you support others with, and I think that's so important for practitioners to be able to process and speak about, and we're really grateful to you. Now, rebuilding your life, it's challenging, and it can feel like, those 2 steps forward, 1 step back. How do you A, recognise those moments, and B, almost be able to process, manage or address them so it doesn't go into the whole, oh, well, I failed now, I may as well just, give it all. I that's the wrong path for me.
I think it's keeping a positive narrative. And keeping a positive narrative is something that is not easy for people.
Yes.
But within that positive narrative, it's about recognising there are going to be setbacks. There are going to be pitfalls. Only last night I had a conversation with my daughter, and she's 18, looking at university. I've got plans, things are going really well, all of those different types of things. And then we're in the car and she's got a white dress on and she spills a bit of a drink and then bursts into tears. I'm sure she won't mind me saying. But and that, when you're saying that, just makes me think. I said to her, it's a drink. I know you've got a white dress on, but it's a drink. It's not important. And I think it's about having that kind of attitude towards understanding that positive narrative in yourself, in saying that actually sometimes there are going to be setbacks. Sometimes life is not easy. Everybody is human. Everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their own thought processes. Just because one person tells you to do something doesn't mean that you need to do it that way. And it's about recognising and understanding who you are within yourself.
That's beautiful, and that is so true, and it is part of that importance of recognising one's own individuality and being okay with it, because it's so easy. I get it when we're young, especially when we're girls, because we're so aware of the social structure. We need to fit in, otherwise it's a problem, and it can be made a problem. That's one of the issues, I think. So on that note, you talk about your friends and family, and that's a really supportive network. But friends and family are not always supportive. Sometimes you're afraid to go to someone because of that I told you so kind of attitude that you're almost expecting, even if they don't say it. What is a helpful thing for friends and family to be able to do if they can see it? But
I think that's the thing. I didn't go to them. I didn't tell them until it was breaking point. They knew because they knew me. They knew when I presented as an incredibly anxious mess a lot of the time, but they didn't want to come to me because they thought, actually, she's not going to receive this well. I'm just going to push her away. I'm just going to make the situation worse. So I think it's about finding that balance, because you don't recognise you're in that situation until sometimes you're out of that situation. And I think it's about, it's the key things that I always say. It's about listening, and when that person is ready to talk to you, really listen, instead of saying, well, I told you so, or, well, I could see that a mile off, or why did you let that happen? And it's a process and it's a slow process, but be there, turn up for that person. If they want to talk, turn up for that person. I think for me, one of the biggest things is sometimes it doesn't matter how much you say to someone about the situation, circumstances they're in. unless they want to do something about it or recognise it, it's really difficult. So it's just about being consistent and being on that journey with them. And it's the same when we're working with a young person. You know, I could go into a room and be like, well, I've experienced this, I've experienced that, I'm seeing those behaviours in what you're saying and what you're doing. You know, they're just, you know, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate sometimes. And you kind of just be that supportive person on that journey and be consistent, because I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of very good friends, and, you know, for me, I now reflect, is that because they were fed up of seeing me on that journey? Is that because actually they could see the situation and didn't feel that they could do anything? Or did they just think that my behaviours were a particular way and don't understand actually the situation and the circumstances that I had been in? It's a really difficult one, but consistency, positivity, you know, even in the darkest of times, you know, keep that positive flow within you.
That's really important. That's really sad that, you know, you lost some friends for whatever reason, you know, and you obviously felt you had really good support from some and not others. But outside of support from your family and the friends that did support you, did you seek support of services, and if so, what were they?
Yeah, so I obviously needed to access the mental health services because I had that kind of going on as well. That sort of, is this because of me? Is this my mental health? And I had my equine therapy. I accessed the Codependency Anonymous. And actually, with the Codependency Anonymous support group, it was fantastic. I could join some online. So there wasn't that, I've got to walk into a room type thing. Although there have been times, that anxious moment of walking into a room. And so for me, it was about just making sure that the access to the services that were there became a part of my routine. You know, what I was doing, who I was talking to, what I was accessing. And in each of them, I talked about something completely different. It wasn't necessarily, it was the same narrative. And I think there's so many fantastic services out there that actually, you know, with fantastic support networks. And if you don't know where to ask, if you don't know where to access them, someone else will know how to access them. So, you know, keeping that kind of open mind to, sometimes you might go to something, it doesn't work. You know, sometimes I would go to one group's not for me. But then I would go to another one where actually I'm like, what have I been doing all my life? Why have I not been here?
Yeah. Can I just ask, with the equine therapy, were you a fan of horses? Were you a horse lover anyway? Or is it something that was kind of newish to you and you found a love of horses?
It was kind of new to me.
Wow.
I'd always loved horses, but I'd always been a little bit scared of horses because they're such big dominant. And someone had recommended it to me. I had a taster session and I was like, where's this been all my life? And so kind of after the taster session was like, yes, this was it. I was so upset when it finished. But actually what I have done since then is that sporadically I've gone, actually, do you know what? Because they said to me, you can come back anytime, Hayley. And sporadically I'll go, I need to go. And it was just, I can't recommend it. It was just phenomenal. Yes. It was absolutely phenomenal. Since then, I love horses. As soon as I see a horse, I feel instantly calmer, and that kind of knowing how to be within yourself when you present with the horse as well.
Because you have to have that calm for them to want to interact with you. So.
Whereas before, I think, I was a bit scared, and so I'd go up to a horse and they'd kind of run away because they'd pick that up on me. But actually it's about that calmness and being in that moment.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, it is. That is beautiful.
So now, what do you do to protect your own well-being and mental health? So how do you stay healthy?
So for me, it's been a journey. I think, in my relationship now, there are still times where I will go, oh, I don't know how to be. Someone's showing me affection is how I am in this. So it's about recognizing within myself, oh, this doesn't sit right. Okay, let's think about this. Let's explore that. But actually being in the position to be able to have that conversation with a partner demonstrates that it's a healthy relationship. When I turn around and say, oh, I'm not used to this. Oh, I don't know what to do. So about that open dialogue within a relationship. But it's also about keeping up with making sure that I look after myself. So I love my job. I'm passionate about the charity. I love my kids. I absolutely adore them. I love my family. But actually, I need to look after myself. So if I need to have one of those days where it is a Hayley day, then I'll have one of those days that's a Hayley day. If I start to feel wobbly, be open and have that kind of wobble. And it is about maintaining that positive narrative, I think.
That really is, that encapsulates the positive narrative. And taking time for yourself is, again, it's not selfish, it's not weak, because those are the two things that get thrown at you. You're either weak or you're selfish. It's kind of, no. That's healthy.
And important.
Because sometimes I think you need time to reset, especially when you've got such a high-powered professional role and such an intense professional role.
And there is that fear, there is that innate fear. So for me, for a very long time, I was so scared to tell anyone about... I'm a leader, I'm a chief executive. I don't want people to think that I'm weak because I've experienced this. I don't want people to think I'm weak because I feel a particular way on a particular day. But actually, for me, I advocate for my staff and say, hold on a minute, do take a day, whatever you might need, as well as turning around and recognising in myself, hold on a minute, and I need to take a day, I need to reset, I need to, because otherwise it's that slope. But it's that perception of people. You just don't want people to perceive you badly, isn't it?
I think that's what it all comes down to, doesn't it? It? The whole thing comes down to that. And as we're talking, it's other people's judgments. Who are these, and why have they got a right to judge us? And yet we are worried about this invisible other all the time. Well, hold that thought, and we'll be back just after this.
I actually wrote this book for the purpose of disconnecting the trauma bond, because we need to shift the focus. And we can't shift the focus by talking about it. We actually need practical tools to move this forward. And this book is actually filled with over 50 little exercises. It's a little bit like a buffet where you can try out, and you like it, you put it in your toolbox. It's all about building your own toolbox, and it's designed to help you shift your focus away from them and what has happened and onto yourself and your healing and finding back to you.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours, where we're talking to Hayley Brown from Links to Change, and you're sharing your personal journey of resilience and growth. So thank you for that. How do you think that the experiences that you've had help you in your role that you have now?
I really, really value them. I think it's really important because it allows you to have that understanding, that compassion. But sometimes it's about, when you're working with and talking to a young person, you can hear a particular narrative and you can pick up on those narratives and you go, oh, actually, that's what this is. A practitioner was struggling with a young person, and I was like, right, you need to go and look at some codependency stuff, because this is really, really obvious, especially in terms of exploitation and grooming. Codependency is a huge factor within that exploitation and in that cycle. And so I think that for me, it allows me to have that real kind of deep understanding of what is happening to that young person, but also know and understand how other people are and how other people can be.
I think codependency is a topic we need to unpack more, actually, and we would love to chat about that with you on a later show, because I think there is, it's misunderstood, I think, because the word is bandied about a bit. Oh, they're just codependent. It almost, instead of using the word inseparable, which is a very different meaning to it, whereas I think codependency, a lot of who you are depends on the relationship, and it's a bit symbiotic. It works both ways. Who that person is kind of depends on what you do in that relationship, and it's a lot deeper than we realise.
And you can have codependency on a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons and a lot of different things, and some of it isn't necessarily always bad. You know, it's not bad, but it's about especially with young people and exploitation, you know, that the groomer has groomed them to become codependent.
Yes.
And then they are exploited.
And I think we can see that even in parental relationships, without it being sexual or anything like that, but almost more on the narcissistic parent type behaviour. You can see that. Or if the parent has their own struggles with alcohol or drugs or something like that, that codependency allows that child to become complicit and protect the family. So I think that will be a very interesting topic. I don't want to derail the conversation.
No, but it will. There's a lot more to it. So on that note, yourself and other practitioners that we've spoken to, they have lived experiences which has led them to do what they do, as you do. So how can you sort of, you said that a young person was talking and it reminded you of your own codependency. So how do you protect yourself from being triggered in a bad way and kind of taking you back there?
Yeah, I think with lived experience, we have to be really careful in terms of not re-traumatizing ourselves and protecting ourselves. It's really important. For me, it's about everything in moderation, if that makes sense. I think if I had to tell my story over and over and over again, you know, again, and I have literally just touched, you know, upon it a little bit, actually, what is the re-traumatization for myself on that? So there is a balance of trying to protect yourself, look after yourself, understand that you need to take a break, understand that actually what I need to do is maybe not see 5 clients in a day, depending upon who it is that I'm working with, who it is that I'm supporting, recognising kind of those symptoms and triggers within myself. A lived experience is fantastic. It really is fantastic, but you have to remember that you are the priority. Yes. And you know, sometimes in the past I've worked with young people and I've gone, that one's close to home. So actually, what I have then done is access clinical supervision, which is incredibly important. So instead of just knowing that in a month's time I've got a clinical supervision booked in, I need to see that person sooner. I need to talk that through. If that person's not there, actually, who else can I go to debrief? It's that debrief. Yeah. Another thing for me is the car. Whatever it is, it's the car. That journey to, that journey home. Music on, podcast more likely nowadays. But you know, music on. Do whatever it is that you need to do in that journey before you get home.
Yeah.
So you're not bringing it into home.
Yes.
That's really good advice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you've kind of answered my next question, because it does relate very much to the usefulness and actually importance of clinical supervision. When it is that lived experience, one of the things that all practitioners need to hold back from is the, oh, that happened to me, which make it all about.
I always wonder how counsellors and other practitioners stop themselves doing that, because it's such a natural thing.
It is. And in conversation, actually, it can be quite helpful and build rapport. But when you're containing anxiety, that's exactly what you're not there to do, is to make it about you. So again, how do you manage that when you're in that situation?
And I think it's about knowing the person that's sitting opposite you. If it's a new relationship, then you're not going to start to go into that kind of conversation. But it's about listening to what they say. If you feel that it's appropriate to say, actually, do you know what, I've experienced this, these are the things that I did that might help, and portray it, I've experienced this, but look at the positive things that I have done and overcome, and I can give you that motivation almost to kind of move on from it, rather than saying, well, when that happened to me, I experienced this, and that person's then sitting,
listening
kind of
to you,
So, or you don't mention it at all, but actually, what you do is, when they're talking to you, you recognise certain things, and you think, right, what helped me, and I will give them the advice, rather than saying, what helped me is I did X, Y, Z.
Yes.
You just say X, Y, X, Y, Z. So it's about that rapport, but they're there to talk about themselves. They're not there to hear your story.
Yes, no, I fully agree with you. I think it's just such an important skill to have, and it is that reading of the room. And so, what do we still misunderstand about recovery? Because it's almost like any big thing that happens in someone's life. When it happens, everyone rallies around, and then suddenly everybody's just left back to their own devices. What do we need to know about recovery?
I think in terms of recovery, we need to know that, whether it's domestic violence, whether it is exploitation, whether or not it's substance misuse, mental health, relapse is when they teach you that, relapse is a normal thing. But it's actually what you do and where you go and where you move on from that, and think about those positive steps that you took and how those positive steps help. If I'm having a bad day, if I'm having a low day, an anxious day, or generally not knowing how to judge a room, okay, well, what works for me? And my sister's excellent at doing this, because we're now in a situation, if I'm having a bad day, I'll pick up the phone and she'll go, you're having a bad day? Remember, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And because she has been with me on this entire journey. So it's about knowing that every day is a day. Be happy that you're in that day. Be happy that you've made it to this day, and think about tomorrow is a different day. I mean, I can't remember what the saying is. Anxiety is about the future and the unknown. Be present in the present. We can't worry about things that have happened in the past. They've happened in the past. Be in the now and be in the present.
That's such a beautiful thing to hold on to. Hayley, where can we find you in terms of your website and your
So
work?
you can find out about Link to Change. You can access the website, which is www.linktochange.org.uk. We are situated on Mill Street. If you want to speak with me, then you can find me, Hayley Brown, on LinkedIn.
That's amazing. And we're going to test the trend on to Hayley today.
My 3 top tips would be: 1, make sure that you take time for yourself, understand and recognise that actually if you're in a situation or circumstances where you just need to breathe, then just breathe. 2, I would say make sure that if you haven't got a support network, look and see what services are around that can possibly support you. If you don't know where to go, have a Google search, talk to anyone that you feel comfortable with and explain the circumstances. And 3, try and keep that positive narrative.
Well, we've reached the last part of the show. Hayley, thank you. As always, it's so insightful talking with you. You have not just got so much experience to share, but the way that you do it is so, it's so compassionate. And that's so important, I think.
Really, really.
The intention, see, it's what we've talked about a lot seems to be the intention behind the words. And it's just so wonderful to listen to you, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think it's really important that resilience is something that doesn't come overnight. And it's really important to know that actually I can have a day where I'm maybe not resilient, but actually, I know I keep saying it, but the positive narrative,
yes,
you know, and go, hold on a minute, Hayley, you might be feeling rubbish today. Look at everything that you have achieved despite anything that has happened to you. And for me, it's really important that we make sure that people know that it doesn't matter what has happened and what has occurred. You can go places, you can do things, you can achieve things if you put your mind to it.
Yes, and I think this really relates to what they're trying to teach a lot on the mental health first aid courses, that mental health is not a you got it or you haven't, it's a continuum.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're functioning and you're good, you know, it's a great day.
Yeah.
Sometimes really not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the depths of despair or anything like that. You're just having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I think everyone understanding that is important.
Yeah.
Whether you've got a diagnosis or not, we all go through it.
Everyone has mental health. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
everyone has it.
Yes.
It's about not looking at someone and going, oh, well, you've got a diagnosis, so you've definitely got this. You know, everyone needs to take time and look after themselves. Every single person does.
Yes, yeah. What are the other things? Because it's so much from you, Hayley. It's brilliant.
Well, I was just thinking, there's so much, but I think one of the sort of outstanding things was if you're a friend or a relative of someone that's going through a bad period of time, then just show up, just be there. And even if you don't understand what your friend or your relative is going through, it kind of doesn't even matter. It's not about you, it's about the person.
Yeah.
So just check in.
Yeah. Even that, just, I'm coming over. We don't have to talk. I'll just sit on the sofa. You know, I have an amazing friend, and he'll go, don't need to talk. I'll just come over, put the TV on. So it is just about being present for that person.
That's what I picked up on as well. It's that how we can be better friends to people, because I think it is quite hard, especially when you don't see somebody for a long time. So you can probably pick up on things more because you can see changes.
Yeah.
But if you're not seeing somebody for a long time, it also means you're probably not in their life as much. You may have moved further away. How do we keep that? I know we finished the interview really, but it is general discussion. How do we keep that connection over the distance and over the time? Is it just checking in on a text or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. I've got friends that maybe I could not talk to for a year, and they'll go, "What's wrong? I've not spoken to you." Or you can pick things up where they left off. I don't think you can always tell things by a text message. I don't know if I'm just an old-fashioned kind of girl, but pick up the phone to me. You'll know straight away in my voice, depending upon where things are at. It's hard. Everyone has lives, and it is hard to kind of maintain that contact. But I think it's really important that a text message isn't going to suffice, to be honest.
Do you know what? Again, we had a conversation with Mark Farrelly, who is an actor who writes and performs the most incredible one-man shows. But he also is a very big advocate for mental health, and he's very much an advocate for talking, picking up the, even if he's out on a walk, he will phone a friend and talk. And it resonated so much because I think you can tell a lot, and it's so lovely to hear someone's voice.
Yeah,
I think it's so much easier just to pick up the phone, have a 1-minute conversation, than spend 2 days having a text message conversation back and forth.
It is true.
Just you know, just pick up the phone. It's fine.
Yes. And the other thing that you said, which is something one of our other guests has said, it's almost like having that safe word when you're not feeling great. So you can ring up your sister and she knows, and then she's got the way to take you through. We had Aaron Shergill on the show. He was talking about if he's having a low day, they've got a safe word in his family. He will say the word. That's a great technique.
Yeah, 100%. Because you don't have to if the person knows you, and you know, you don't have to explain. You don't. I'm at that point. I don't have to tell her what's wrong, what might be happening, what might be the cause. It will just be not great. Okay, do you want me to come over? No, I'm fine. Okay, do this.
Yeah, that's really important. There's so much to process and digest. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you so much for this conversation, Hayley.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, anytime. We'll bring you back to talk about codependency. We'll book that in straight after this. Thank you and good night.